So we'll make a start now. Welcome everybody to the fourth seminar in the Unconscious Memories Network series. It's great to see you all. I'm Sohan Park, the convener. I'll first say a few words about the network by way of invitation. This network was set up to develop ways in which you might reduce the conceptual gap between mind and brain with the focus on unconscious memory. And so far we have examined the neurobiology and literature of memory, the neuroscience of reading, and what literature and neuroscience can tell us about priming. Coming up in a couple of weeks is a seminar on Proustian memory led by Gordon Shepherd, the eminent neuroanatomist at Yale, and his daughter, Professor Kristen Shepherd-Barr, who teaches in the English faculty here. We warmly invite your participation and collaboration, and so if you have any suggestions, just drop me a line. For those who have not attended this series before, what we do is hear one talk after another, pausing only very briefly for clarification questions. And after we've heard both papers, we take a short break for drinks, and with drinks in hand, begin the discussion. So to turn to today's topic, neuroscience and psychoanalysis, I am delighted to introduce to you our chair, the Goldsmith Professor of English at Oxford, Laura Marcus. Many of us know her through her work on modernism, Virginia Woolf, and film, but perhaps with so many psychoanalysts in the room, Professor Marcus may be more familiar to you in the context of psychoanalysis. She has edited Freud's The Interpretation of Dreams, as well as a collection of interdisciplinary essays on the interpretation of dreams, and last year we saw both the publication of our landmark study, Dreams of Modernity, Psychoanalysis, Literature, Cinema, published by the Cambridge University Press, and the concise companion to Psychoanalysis, Literature and Culture, published by Blackwell Wiley. Please join me in welcoming our chair, Professor Marcus.
Thank you very much, Sohan. I mean, it's a great honour and pleasure to be asked to chair this session, which I know a number of people, all of us, have been looking forward to, but the room is very crowded, and that's excellent. I'm going to introduce our speakers one by one, as it were. So I'll first introduce our first speaker, Professor Richard Brown, who is a university research professor in the Department of Psychology and Neuroscience at Dalhousie University in Nova Scotia. But he has had a lot of his career, spent a good deal of his career here at Oxford, including completing a degree in zoology in Oxford, and he's returned as a senior visiting research fellow at St John's College, Oxford, recently, and also visiting professorship at Wolfson College, which he held last year. The list of his achievements, research, the post he's held is very long. I will just single out a few. He was president of the International Behavioural and Neurogenetics Society, and president of the Canadian Society for Brain Behaviour and Cognitive Science. And his work has been on neurological disorders through mouse models, which we will, I'm sure, hear more about, and working on Alzheimer's disease, on Fragile X syndrome, ADHD, and other neurological disorders. And he has also written wonderful work more on the history of science, and perhaps we might be able to ask more about that in question time. But today he's going to be talking to us on the question of multiple memory systems in the brain, integrating conscious and unconscious memory pathways. So give him a very big welcome. Thank you.
Well, I'd like to thank very much Professor Sohan Park for inviting me to this symposium, and everyone for making the sun shine. As was mentioned in the introduction, most of our work these days is on mouse models of Alzheimer's disease. And what I want to talk about is the problem of trying to understand mouse models of any disease and translating that information to human disorders. So we flip back and forth from the human situation to the mouse situation. So H.M. was probably the most famous person in psychology and neuroscience of memory. He died recently. And he's famous because he's been a long-term patient. He had epilepsy, and he had a bilateral removal of his medial temporal lobes, which caused enormous problems with memory. And Brenda Milner from Montreal Neurological